I won't be able to see your screens while I'm talking, so please do relay any questions that you might have into the chat pod. I will be able to answer them once I'm done, or my teammates who are also on the call will be able to help answer those questions. My name is Sarah Xu. I work as a product manager on Project Firefly. Today, I'll be the host for your Project Firefly office hour. The goal for today is we're going to spend the beginning 10 or 15 minutes for me to show you some quick demos and features that's come out within the last month. And then the rest of the time is really dedicated for you. If there are any questions that you have, feel free to start typing them into the chat pod or the Q&A pod. Once I'm done with the short presentation, we'll answer all of those questions in order. Without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. So there's three main features, new features that I wanted to talk about today. We're going to begin with some UI and action template updates, moving on to some news with our storage service. And last but not least, as we have more and more developers onboarded, we have been really taking some strides towards improving our logging experience. Those will be the three themes that we go through for our November update. Starting, to just quickly recap, for those of you who might be newer to Project Firefly, Project Firefly is our unified framework for really creating any custom cloud-native application that extends the functionalities of Adobe solutions and runs on our infrastructure. Basically, think of you'll be able to easily initialize an application, go through development, and deploy it within the matter of minutes. This is an offering for all of our enterprise customers, which means partners and customers, system integrator developers, as well as enterprise developers are currently our primary target. As part of Project Firefly, we have runtime, which is the compute layer providing all compute functionalities. We have a set of cloud services like storage service, which we're going to talk a little bit about today, as well as CDN that basically supplements what services that someone would need to build out a full cloud-native application. We have custom events, which provides ability to publish and consume events leveraging our event gateway. We also have a set of developer tooling. So a couple of the stuff we talk about today touches those, like the templates as well as the logging commands. We have the whole experience really centers around the CLI, AIO CLI, for those of you who are familiar. Any developer will be able to easily initialize the application, deploy, build, test, all using the CLI. And to go with it, we have these templates that are pre-built with SDKs that pre-built with SDKs that are used to connect to Adobe Solution APIs. Other than that, we also have React Spectrum, which is a React implementation of the Spectrum design system that Adobe has. This is embedded as part of our UI framework for anyone to easily be able to build applications in React that looks and feels like Adobe applications. Other than that, we have a lot of other developer tools, such as like debugging tools, GitHub Actions. There's a bunch of stuff that really supplements specific needs that people might have during development cycle. And I want to lay this out at the beginning. Feel free to take a screenshot of this. I'm sure that to many of you, these are not new resources. If you are not part of Firefly yet, you can apply using the Typeform link at the top. All the documentations, videos, sample applications, code labs, blog posts are all linked through our documentation, which is at the second link, the adobe.io link that you see here. Last but not least, this session particularly is very much focused on updates and focused on office hours for people who have started working with Firefly. If you're interested, if you are just new to Firefly and you want to watch a recording of the introduction, a session recorded by my teammate Ron, who is also on the call today, is available on YouTube for on-demand streaming. Other than that, we're very active on social media as well as YouTube. All of the resources of these webinars are all recorded and uploaded. You can go to Twitter to check out what's new, all these new actions happening. We are active to post blog posts on Medium under Adobe Tech, and our YouTube channel is Adobe Developers. Now, done with the advertisement, moving on to the actual features. So we're going to start with UI and action templates. For those of you who have used Adobe, like Adobe Project Firefly, and you've probably started a project, as part of your initialization sequence, you're asked to choose between different action templates and different UI templates. While we've recognized that people really have a really wide range of products that they want to integrate with and things that they want to do specifically. For that, we have introduced new action templates. Now we have 6 product-specific ones and 1 generic action template. You can see it's really covering lots of products within the Experience Cloud and Experience Platform portfolio. Other than that, we originally only support React Spectrum templates for initial release. We listen to our customers, and for a lot of people who are less familiar with React, they would love to have more of a straight HTML, JavaScript, CSS type of template. We listened and we developed. It is now available, and you can actually access this and use it to build an application. So without further ado, let me actually show you this in action through my CLI. So I am currently inside my terminal. Let me start an application. So like I said, AIO app init is the command to start any Firefly project. We're going to call this one Fizz Hour. I am already logged in through my CLI, so currently it is connecting to my profile to see, what organizations I'm a part of. We're going to use this development org, and I can actually select and search from all the different projects that's available to me. I've set up this project previously. I know it's November now, but October demo. I've set up this project previously, so let's go ahead and use that one. I'm going to go ahead and use the production workspace for this project, so that I can directly deploy and actually show you guys. Normally, you would start from your development workspace or stage workspace, but we're going to use production for this one. So now that I've selected what organization, project, and workspace I would like to use for my project, just like previously, I'm now asked to select from all the different I/O features that is available within Project Firefly. You have a set of actions. These are the runtime actions that you can deploy as your backend functionalities. You have events. These are the custom events that you can build and publish. You have the web assets, which are the front-end part of your application, and sample GitHub actions that you can use to construct your own CI/CD. We're going to do all of those for now. So because I've selected action, these are the full list of actions that, as I mentioned in the slides, that are now available to you. And if you notice, they're actually all sectioned. So there's sectioned by things that's available within your current workspace. As you can see, I have the workspace I've selected, production workspace under October demo, have AEP added, which is why this is recommended to me as my first choice. For the purpose of this demo, we're actually just going to do the generic template for now. But other than that, you also have a set of templates that is available to your organization because your organization owns these products. Like my org owns analytics, compute, audience manager, and target. Although they're not added to my workspace, I can still see them in this list of template supported by my org. And last but not least, unfortunately, this org does not have campaign standard, but those are we do have templates for campaign standard. We want to make sure that you're aware of that. So let's start with generic. And now it's time to select your UI template. Like I said, you have React Spectrum and you have straight HTML JavaScript as an option. I'm sure that lots of you have seen the React Spectrum option in the past, so we're actually going to go with HTML JavaScript, this pure HTML JavaScript option. If you're interested in seeing the React Spectrum option, you can try yourself through AIO App Init, or you can watch our recording for getting started, which is also on YouTube, and that shows you the React Spectrum example. All right, it's asking me to name my sample actions. I'm going to just use the default name that they've provided for me. As all the dependency gets built, hopefully this will succeed very soon. Voila. You can see that my application initialization has finished. In many of the past sessions, I've shown the directory to you on how the code structure changes. None of that has changed. So we're just going to go ahead and directly deploy this application that I have just initialized and actually show you the new plain HTML and JavaScript action. Hopefully this will happen quickly. You know, a big part of quarantine is once you're working from home, every internet speed becomes such a big part of your demo. Whether or not things are successful, how long it takes, is all super dependent on the network speed now. Let's hope the demo god is blessing me with the speed today. Okay, my web assets and actions are both built. For those of you who may have learned about our architecture, you know, the actions are built and then deployed into the runtime namespace that is set up through my workspace. And my web assets are actually built and deployed to the CDN that is also hosted by us. So let's check out this application. You can see a number, these are the action URLs, and this is the deploy application link. Let's go ahead and go see my application experience Cloud Shell. And here we go. This is the plain HTML JavaScript UI template that we've come up with. Everything works the same. You can still try to run your sample actions. You will see the result of your sample calls reflected here, whether it's successful or not, some helpful documentation for you. So it provides an alternative to people who may not be a huge fan of React or just are less familiar with that framework to be able to easily get started with Firefly as well. All right, let's go back to my slides. So other than action templates and UI templates, we also got a lot of use cases that needs to leverage our storage more. So as many of you probably know, we provide two types of storage service. One specifically for file storage and one for state storage. We're seeing more and more use cases that leverage these to store application state to the file storage to use for temporary file transportation, migration, transformation, or being able to access this file, expose this file for access temporarily. So with all of those, we actually came up with two new features that support as part of to be supported as part of our storage service. For the files library, we now support pre-signed URL. So for any file sharing that might be needed, or you need someone to upload files, you can easily create pre-signed URL as a part of using the library and put it into your application to be used. And for the state library, we have begun to support data expiry. In the past, you'll have to manually delete that entry. Now you can actually set time to live for all of your entries in there. These are sample codes, but you can definitely read more about both libraries under GitHub at Adobe /AIOLib files for the file library, and at Adobe /AIOLib state for the state library. Last but not least, for a lot of developers working with logs and working to debug and develop their applications, there's a lot more need to really be able to easily work with logs and retrieve logs. We reorganized and added new features and commands for both our runtime level log retrieval as well as application log retrieval. So for those of you familiar with AIO runtime, AIO runtime are the commands that one can use to directly interface with the runtime namespace. All the logs command under this, alongside with all the different flags, allows you to retrieve logs across all actions within your current namespace. The AIO app logs are the one that you'll probably interface more as a Firefly developer because those are logs that's specific to your application. It is possible that one namespace there might be different applications coexisting. AIO app logs ensures that while you're developing, only the logs for your current application should be retrieved, and you can further limit it to a number of logs you want to retrieve. You can pull your logs, you can tail logs. There are many different operations that you can do to basically be able to watch your logs more closely. While I cannot paste the full documentation here, you're more than welcome to go ahead and go to our plugin documentation to read more about these commands, or to simply upgrade your CLI to the latest version and to try this out on your command line yourself. This concludes my presentation for today. As I said, this is a really short update for some of the new features that's come out within the last month. Now I would like to hand it over to you for any questions that you might have. Happy to answer them, whether they're related to technical issues that you're encountering, use case questions, anything goes. So let me go back to BlueJeans and see. Stop sharing as well. Okay, so no questions yet. Are all of our users fully comfortable with all the Firefly stuff? Feel free to ask any, both technical question, like I said, business use cases, really anything goes. It could be something like, oh, I don't know how to do this specific operation. I'm happy to help support and answer those questions. Okay, we got one coming in. I am quite interested with how to integrate Firefly with AEM, but couldn't see it listed in the CLI. AEM is a very interesting case because you essentially have bits and pieces of it that's already connected to Firefly and bits and pieces that's a little bit more manual at the time. So for any Skyline customers who are also using assets, there is, assets on Skyline, assets on AEM as a cloud service is offered as a microservices, where you essentially have asset microservices allows you to process assets as a part of AEM as a cloud service. When you're extending asset microservices, let's say you have a custom workflow for your assets that you would like to operate, you could nowadays build it as a Firefly application. When you initialize with the CLI, you can see the option to create an asset microservice worker right over there. So that is the way that for AEM as a cloud service, you can connect directly. There are some other use cases for the AEM. One big one is with events. This transcends both like on-prem instances as well as the cloud services. For any AEM instance, you can always set up AEM events, which is part of IO events. And these AEM events can be, you can set up a Firefly application to listen to these AEM events and respond to it. For instance, let's say you want to be notified every time certain assets on your AEM instance changes. You can basically have your Firefly application act as a webhook that listens to those events. When an asset change, maybe send an email or a Slack notification to someone for review. And last but not least, you can always build microservices that work directly with your AEM instance. One of the use cases we've seen in the past is related to asset migration. So let's say you have an external DAM and you need to move a bunch of assets into AEM. You can build a headless Firefly application that serves as basically going through the repository and going through the list, moving those temporarily into our file storage, and then using I believe it's using the HTTP API to upload these into an AEM instance. And because asset migration, it's not something that always have to run, it's more things that happens intermittently. It's a fantastic use case for Firefly, and because Firefly runs on serverless, so, we scale up resources based on the amount of asset you're moving, and then the application goes into idling when it's not being used. So there are basically many ways that AEM integrates with Firefly, and I'm not sure if these are quite the ones that you're looking for. If you do have something specific in mind, feel free to share it, and I'm happy to provide some thoughts. What is the best approach to have data persisted in Firefly applications? For instance, a small database like storage scenario. So this would be I would say there are two parts to my answer. The first part is it really depends on what type of data and what is your data used for. This part would determine whether you should use our state library or our file library. So our state library, let me actually go, our state library is available at AIO lib state, and our file library is available at AIO lib file. So these two libraries, AIO lib state has a database behind the scenes, and then file has a blob storage behind the scene. And these two, depends on the kind of data you're storing. If it's larger files, or larger JSON, those might be better suited for the file library than the state library. The second part of my answer is, well, basically, you initialize these applications within your Firefly application, and then you will be able to store stuff in. So this would be our recommended best approach to have your data persisted. More answers, more following up on the AEM question. Corey asked, thanks for the elaborate answer. My pleasure. Currently, we exploit content-purposed AEM components, build some back office logic as well. So hearing all these feels like a giant leap. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that with, the whole purpose of having like a cloud native application is really being able to in a more lightweight manner, be able to connect different platforms and be able to work with contents. So yeah, so as long as you have the content available inside your AEM, you can easily customize your back office applications, leveraging those content through Project Firefly. In addition, because once the Firefly application is published, it is available through Experience Cloud as a part of the Experience Cloud UI for the employees. So it's really easy for any existing customer, any existing employees for that customer to access the application. I'm mentioning this because you particularly are talking about back office application, which means, it's employees using these application, and if they already have Experience Cloud access, it's very easy for them to access a published Firefly application. Getting
Sarah?
another question. Yes?
I don't know if you can hear me. It might be good to at least just mention how we're working with the product teams on evolving how we integrate with products like AEM with the hackathon that's coming up. So looking at ways that
Sure.
Firefly will integrate. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So this is still really early stage. So so it's not, let me just make that like disclaimer, it's not a commitment. But we are certainly working super closely with the AEM team to figure out, how extensibility is going to look like for AEM as a cloud service. As the piece I mentioned with Asset Microservice, there's like a lot of stuff that there's a lot more extensibility that hopefully we'll be able to offer jointly from Firefly plus AEM as a cloud service. So Corey, to another question, does the state storage support some sort of indexing the persisted data for querying? Not out of the box at the moment. Basically, it's pretty straightforward. It's like a key value storage. One of the ways I have seen it done at the moment is basically indexing the keys as part of as one of the value, and then going through the value of that key. I know it's not it's not as pretty, and it's kind of a little homemade at the moment, but right now, as we don't support this out of the box, that is how some of our users have done it. You're more than welcome to open an issue. So all of our tools are actually developed out in the open. As you can see, these repositories on GitHub. And, we would love to hear from you on what do you think are most important features, like what are the use cases that you have this for. If you want to open an issue on our repository, we'll be able to answer, and you can actually track it, understand, do we have the bandwidth to be able to support this immediately, or it's something that's going to be later. Or, if you have bandwidth, you're more than welcome to contribute to our libraries as well. Let's see. I don't think I see any other questions yet. While we wait, let me maybe just comment a little bit more on AEM integrations. I think that, I actually personally came from an AEM developer background. I used to be a developer on helpx.adobe.com and really did a lot of workflows, a lot of globalization and template component develop work. I think the thing with AEM is there's so many ways that you can customize it, and that means the integration pattern for Project Firefly with AEM is incredibly diverse. Outside of the things that I was mentioning with asset microservices, with event-driven integrations, you can even do things like, build a service inside AEM that is available externally, and then have a Firefly application provide an interface to orchestrate certain operations. Let's say that your externally available API from AEM is, kicking off publish workflows. If you expose that through the API, then your Firefly application would be able to connect your AEM instance, and actually would be able to provide a UI for people or employees within Experience Cloud to do that, to start workflows, publish assets, find assets. a lot of many possibilities with how you can integrate AEM with Firefly.